Hi Aries, this is Rebecca from Being Human Tarot, along with Perchik, my little sidekick, who is in good enough a mood to be accompanying me. Just on a personal note, he's been very hormonal, and this is sort of like a breakthrough that he's stepping back up. So I wanted to let him join me and see how long it lasts. If it gets aggressive, you'll know like pretty immediately. But anyway, Aries, this is about you. This isn't about me. And I'm here with a 5-card spread for, for July 2018. Okay, you can go ahead. Okay, you can go up there. Where we're going to examine where you are right now, what your task is for the month, what your difficulties are for the month, your strengths for the month, and then ultimately your goal for the month. So, God. So actually, sorry, this is just so interruptive of your reading, but I also have a cat and she's looking at him in a way that I don't like, so I need to like address that real quick. Okay, situation addressed. Back to you. So, you have quite the reading. As I've mentioned in other videos, I shuffle off camera because I'm embarrassed about my shuffling, frankly, and so, but trust me, I didn't like pull cards or do anything weird, and at the end of this video I'll pan to the full spread so that you can see it all together. So, in your first position of where you are, we have the Devil. So, it's obviously a challenging card. It's not a card we pull and necessarily ever have like warm and fuzzy feelings about. But we've also all been there, right? The Devil is a very real existence in all of our lives. And it's also the imagery of the Devil has always felt a bit hyperbolic to me. I mean, yes, it stands for overindulgence in things. It stands for us taking part in stuff that's not healthy for us, whether that's, you know, drugs that aren't healthy for us, or like excessive drinking, going out and partying in like an unsustainable way that's making us tired and like isn't serving us. Having sex in ways that doesn't serve us. You know, any kind of number of things that are taken to an unhealthy level for how we are personally. Which I say that with no judgment, because we all have different things that we all have different levels of, and mostly I'm thinking about sex, right? Because saying in excess of sex like sounds very judgy, like, oh, if you're having a lot of sex, like, it's the devil. Like, no, not necessarily. But if you're someone who doesn't typically get a lot of pleasure and fulfillment out of having a lot of sex, like, in whatever way that takes shape, and it's damaging you more than it's bringing fulfillment to your life, then yeah, that is the devil. Which is just a little, like, asterisks about what I mean there. But so, there's so many different ways that the devil can show up in your life. It's hard to pinpoint, especially in such a general reading for an entire sign. But it's safe to say that there's something going on with you right now at the beginning of July that hasn't been working for you. You've gotten stuck in a pattern that's toxic for you, and it might not be necessarily some huge thing, like it's not necessarily like you're addicted to a drug and it's like diminishing your health rapidly. It could be a fight pattern that you're in with a significant other. Maybe you guys keep bringing up the same things every time you argue and aren't able to kind of be together in the way that you want to be together because you're so stuck, right? It's just about unhealthy, repetitive patterns So, yeah, it's not the most fun card, but it's real and it's where you are now, so it's not where you have to be. But, so that's your number 1 card. For number 2, your task, you have the Knight of Wands. And so it seems to be that, like, the Knights are all about movement, right? And they're varying positions of such. So the if I'm remembering correctly without seeing them, the Knight of Pentacles and the Knight of Cups are the much more slower moving. And then the Knight of Wands, he's got more of a pace, right? The horse is starting to rear on its hind legs a bit. But the rider's still in control. I know that Aries, you're a fire sign. Wands is a fire sign, so this could very much be you and being tasked with this month making a little bit of progress on where you are from your current state. So sort of moving on and tapping into your own personal, like, fire energy and who you are, to remind yourself of that. Remind yourself of who you are, what your goals are, what's important to you, and to just move on from, like, this double stage. Right, Kershik. I don't know if you're on camera or not, but you might be able to hear him. And in terms of your difficulties, this month you have the 7 of Pentacles. So the 7 of Pentacles, this guy has been working very hard. And he's getting ready. He's kind of resting for a second and looking back on all that he's done to sort of harvest these crops. And he's feeling good about it. So it could be that while you've been so wrapped up and these are the things that have been going on in your life with the devil, and I mean, your task, you're not necessarily wrapped up in that because that's something you're tasked to do with this month, but maybe you're having a bit of a hard time giving yourself credit for the things that you have done. And that in and of itself, honestly, can be a manifestation of the devil, like our thoughts, our own toxic thoughts about ourselves. When we have so much negative self-talk, that's just internal. That's the devil. You know, when we're telling ourselves, you're not working hard enough, you're stupid. Everyone thinks you're stupid. Everyone at work thinks that your work isn't good enough. You're never good enough. Like, just all of those things that so many of us can do inside are the devil. That's one form of the devil. And so if your difficulty is sort of looking back on your work and being able to feel proud of it, then it could very much be that was your form of the devil from where you are at the beginning of this month. And so then you're just being asked to actually look at everything you've done. Sorry, I feel like I have a habit of, like, holding the card down here and, like, talking about it and, like, no one can see. So I have to remember to hold it up. But so it's really, like, look at all those pentacles. 7 pentacles is a lot. You've done a lot. You've been harvesting a lot. You've been doing a lot. Give yourself some credit this month. Allow yourself to see the hard work that you do in your life. Okay. This is a good one for, anyway, okay. That's not funny. For your strengths, for your strength card, you have the Wheel of Fortune. Which is it's a cool strength because, sorry, let me hold it closer to see if it'll focus first. Because as a strength, it really, the nature of the Wheel of Fortune is that you can't control it, right? It's turning at its own pace. The images on it are quite interesting if you want to, like, take an actual look. There's just sort of all these beings existing out there that we don't know about, we don't have any control over. And it's just sort of chance, right? So for this card to be in your position of strength this month is great, because it's sort of just like saying you're lucky. Like you have luck in your corner this month. And I don't know, I'm not a whiz on astrology, I confess. And so I can't comment on the actual planetary alignments that you have going on this month, but could very well be that. It could be that you're just in a place right now where it's just you're bringing about luck, and that could be from a number of things. That could just, like, again, like sort of like purely chance, Wheel of Fortune. Sometimes we just have really good periods, and it's not because of any tangible reason. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's for things that we don't notice, that go unnoticed, for things that we have been building up. But this is almost just like you have this luck on your side this month, and that's good. It's good, and you should embrace it. For your goal of the month, you have the King of Swords, which is a great goal. I mean, the sword suit's just, I'm quite the fangirl of the sword suits, because I feel like I can relate a lot. This is just sort of a personal side note, but I can relate a lot to, I mean, I am an earth sign, so I can relate to pentacles. I can relate to cups a ton. I can relate to wands a bit. Swords are harder for me, and not that I can't relate to them, but like I see a strength in swords that is maybe one of my weakest personal links, and so I'm always fascinated. I'm always fascinated for the sword suits and like everything they have to offer and suggest. So for the King of Swords as your goal, it's really about, I mean, look at this juxtaposition of the Devil and the King of Swords. They're kind of polar opposites. I guess you could also make a case for the Devil opposing the Emperor as being polar opposites, but I think along that vein, it's really just like you need to get back into control. And it does seem, now that we've gotten to this being your ultimate goal, it does seem like the challenge of the Devil of where you are now, it was / is more mental, because the goal is to be the King of Swords and to have control over that, to be able to see a thought coming, a negative thought coming, for example, and to recognize it and to understand why you're thinking that about yourself or about a situation or someone else or whatever it is, but to not let it overwhelm you. So, for example, if you're feeling insecure about your looks or something, and you look in the mirror one day when you're getting ready for work or whatever, and there's something's off, you're not having a great hair day, and I'm sorry to make this sound so petty, but I also think that sometimes the pettiest things actually like have much deeper ingrained like influences, and so it's not as shallow as it seems at first glance. But so to follow that example, if you were kind of in a double state of view, you could just let that thought overrun you, and it could be cyclical, and you could just keep thinking, I look terrible, I'm embarrassed to go out, I look terrible. Whereas as a goal to be like the King of Swords, you could think that thought, understand where that thought comes from, allow yourself to understand why you thought that, not just be like, oh, that was a dumb thought, because it's not just about dismissing yourself either, but then moving on and being like, I'm gonna put that thought away, I'm going to be the King of Swords. I'm going to respect myself and realize that I have my own biases and I'm pretty great. And I'm not going to let this one insecure thought that I have at the beginning of the day just rule what happens for the rest of the day. So, I mean, that's one like small example of that, but obviously that could take so many different forms in our lives and how we think about ourselves and the kind of negative self-talk that we can do. So that's your reading for July. If you enjoyed this reading, I encourage you to thumbs up, like the video, also consider subscribing. We upload videos before the 1st of every month so that you can get a lot of time with the video for that month and sort of like scoping out what you should expect and all of that. I will keep looking back at her chick. I will pause this now so that you can see the actual spread all laid out in case you want to, because I know I was just holding up the individual cards. It's a little bit easier that way, just with the kind of camera I have, but I will pause this now so that you can see the full spread. And I will see you next month, Aries. Bye. So here you go, Aries. You can tell there's a bit of overhead shine, as the light in my apartment is wont to do. Thanks for tuning in. See you next month.